Don't attack Malaya because her mental health is, it's going to be reflected on our daughter. So I don't.
Did she say her daughter or our daughter?
Don't attack Malaya because her mental health is, it's going to be reflected on our daughter. So I don't want anyone attacking Malaya anymore.
Well, if he said her daughter, yeah, that wouldn't be right because our daughter would be correct. And this is his biological daughter. Jack and Lily are not his biological children. And one thing that we need to notice is that he doesn't say, he doesn't take back anything that he has said. He doesn't say, leave her alone. She had nothing to do with this. This is something that I would expect if his statements were purely out of, I don't know, spite or do people accuse somebody out of anger, even though they know a person's innocent? Sure. I mean, JLR did it when, he had a falling out with Seth Rogers, that he suddenly went from being on the right track with the Proudfoots, naming Seth as a suspect, which I don't care if if he was ever officially a person of interest or a suspect. I don't care. Seth had nothing to do with that. Yes, so there are people who do this stuff. And I don't understand how to I will express when I dislike anything that anybody is doing. It doesn't matter if it's Seth, it doesn't matter if it's a so-called creator. It makes no difference to me. But the one thing I will not do is make up lies. And that is something that I think is one of the lowest things that you can possibly do. I cut people out of my life. And I'm really good at that. Meaning, it's as if they have already passed on. But I'm not going to slander. I'm not going to. And if you're an investigative reporter, for example, how can you keep your credibility if simply because you don't like somebody, suddenly you claim this person had something to do with the crime? When you know he or she didn't. I don't get it. But here's the thing. If Daniel had made up some stuff out of spite because he wanted to get a reaction out of Malaya, right? Maybe he wanted to just get a reaction out of her and her to call him and say, please stop talking about me. And then he could have, used that opportunity to say, well, can I see you again? Or what? By the way, there has been a lot of speculation as to the validity. He should be able to get supervised visits with his daughter, right? Well, I'm not going to go into the speculations here, but I think it is very, very important for us to note that none of what he said in the text messages he's taking back. Nothing. He's told us she is involved, and so is he.
I'm just staying as hopeful as possible. I want them home. I want to hold them. And I want them home. What happened was we woke up, I heard them playing in the next room beside us, and I was drifting in and out of sleep. And they're not the type of kids that we tell them not to go outside.
They're not the type of kids that, what were you going to say? They're not the type of kids that would wander off. I believe that's what she was going to say, because this sentence makes zero sense. They're not the kind of type of kids we tell them not to go outside on their own.
On their own. We always make sure that we're out there with.
This sentence makes no sense. Remember the Chris Proudfoot sentence about the bedroom of Sebastian? never going to be slept in again. That's what he was going to say, I believe. But he said that never was empty, but it was empty every other weekend. So that's one part where Chris Proudfoot said something that made zero sense. What you do when a sentence doesn't make sense, you go back to the very beginning and you explore for alternate endings of the sentence. So in this particular case, they are not the type of kids that would wander off. I believe that's what she was going to say. But she changed it because she figured, nah, let's run with this one. Let's keep this possibility open. Because we have only the truth and we don't want to tell the truth. So we rather throw out some possibilities. This is one of many times that she is telling us these kids did not wander off, even though on May 2nd, that is what she tried to sell to her former mother in law, the children's biological grandmother. That was exactly the scenario she was trying to sell. They wandered off. I guess as time went by, she realized that was going to be too hard of a sale. And if she's trying too hard to sell something like that, people will be suspicious and say, wait a minute, this makes no sense. Why is she trying to convince us of something that makes absolutely zero sense?
Not the type of kids that we tell them not to go outside on
And also, well, let's move on.
their own. We always make sure that we're out there with them, watching them. And
That we're out there with them, watching them. She's doubling down on the good supervising parent, right? You see that? We're always out there with them and then watching them in addition. So she's trying way too hard. And I believe that whatever happened to Jack and Lily was most likely a result of neglect. I believe when Daniel talked about her playing on her phone, may have been when something had happened to Jack and Lily kept coming into the room multiple times. And Malaya ignored it. I believe that there's a lot of leakage in the language of Daniel. I believe Daniel has leaked a lot. While he wants to implicate her, he is giving us leakage of guilty knowledge. And that knowledge is exactly about what happened to the children. And he is using certain moments of that show Malaya in a bad light and indicate her responsibility in that matter, the shared responsibility between both of them. And why did he do that? Well, he doesn't want to get caught, but he wants her back. And he's telling her, you're not getting away that easily. We're in this together. You're not going to move on. You're not going to have another boyfriend and then maybe tell him one day what happened and then, no, we are in this together. I'm doing this all for you, for us. So it'll be very interesting how this is going to play out because she obviously had an easy time just cutting things off. And I believe that her feelings towards him are negative. Let's see.
they happen to just get out that sliding door.
Happen to. I talked about this before. When somebody says they just happened to, no, it wasn't a coincidence. And this is not what they did. They didn't get out, they were taken out.
We can't hear it when it opens. And they were outside.
Sure, but Daniel also had a different version in which he heard it. So I'm pretty sure that now on May 3rd, she is going by the original script. And I believe Daniel had to change it a little bit because the cops probably were inside and said, what you mean? This door? You know? What you mean you can't hear it? Probably the cop looked him straight in the eye, said, what? Excuse me, one more time? What are you trying to say? You didn't hear that? That sliding door is what? And so I believe Daniel adjusted things because he is the only one speaking. She is no longer speaking. We only have this one statement from over a month ago. And they were outside playing, but we didn't know that. They were
playing, but we weren't aware of it at the time.
And remember, the grandmother supposedly woke up when she heard Daniel screaming for the kids, right? She was napping at the time. Remember that? So who said that the kids were playing? They were not. And I believe that this is a very, very important part, people. Last night was one of the worst nights. I guess she's going to say that next in this video from True Crime Stories Hour. Last night was one of the worst nights. She said that on Saturday. So she's referring to the night from Friday to Saturday. If your children go missing and it's going to be the first night that they're not with you, that would not be one of the worst nights. That would be the worst night. This indicates to me that the night before that was the worst night because that's when it happened. And that was the night from Thursday to Friday. Daniel talked about the sun was already up. I believe he was gone at night. He came back in the early morning hours, shortly after 6, and he was asked, did you have anything to do with it? I 100% did not. He did not have 100% to do with it. This is shared responsibility. And this is very important for him. He wants to make sure that the public understands it and Malaya understands it and doesn't get away from him, in my opinion. Now, some of you think that Malaya may have had postpartum depression and may have hurt the children. Others think that Daniel is a violent abuser, which is why the CPS doesn't let him visit his daughter. But still, there should be supervised visits allowed, right? I don't know what the laws are, but you can fill me in on this. I'm not going to commit to any of this. The language is more likely to indicate the direction of something that happened due to neglect. Because this woman, Malaya, is very, very adamant. She is very hard, trying to convince very hard that she didn't neglect these kids. That is her, remember, plates: priority, leakage, avoidances, intention, deception, and sensitivities. So intention and sensitivities are very closely aligned. So that is a sensitive area, a very sensitive area to her, that she wants to convince us that she is a mother that always watched the children. But we have heard from others that no, the kids were running wild in the yard. And even Daniel told us with him they were well behaved. But with her, no. They were running all over her and she had no control over them. So he wants to make sure to let her know whatever it was that happened, don't put this all on me, because I feel like everybody putting everything on me because I'm the only one that's out here speaking.
Every day when I wake up, feels like I'm reliving a nightmare.
Same like Katie Proudfoot, the nightmare. Why is it a nightmare? Would you talk about this as a nightmare when your kids are missing? Or would you call out for help? These people know what happened. 100%. There is no way. If you know these kids didn't walk off, an abduction would be the only other possibility. You would call out to the abductor. You would call out to anybody and try your best to convince, please, let my children go. None of that. Not once, after over a month, have they called out to a potential abductor. These people are lying. And I know there are people who want to convince others Daniel has nothing to do with it. And he's only covering for her. Well, how do you know that? How the hell do you know that? First, you talk about Daniel doesn't know anything. He has nothing to do with it. He doesn't even know anything. And suddenly it's people making up their minds very, very quickly, throwing out different theories without any real foundation, will turn a case into a court case. The Proudfoots have successfully done that. They've thrown out so many possibilities, and people latch onto them. And that's how a case grows cold. Because you know what? Eventually, people will get sick and tired of their own theories. And they will get bored with the case. And they will say, forget it, man. Forget it, forget it, forget it, forget it. That's what I see happening right now. And this is probably what Daniel is trying for. See me every day. See me all the time. See me doing something. See me fighting. See me talking. See me get connected to me. And see me in a good light. So eventually people will say, but you see, the bottom line is he is lying. He is deceptive. He is highly deceptive. And we need to get to the bottom of this. So yes, I agree. We need to look at the basin, the Fundy Basin. We need to look other possible, the bodies would have been out in the ocean and probably never, I don't know. But this guy has the answers. Let's never forget this. Okay? So if you're listening to a channel that tries to convince you, oh no, it's a nice guy and he messaged us and he's trying to, no. Why did he message you? He's sending out a message that he wants to get to Malaya. Remember, you're in it with me. Feels like I'm reliving a nightmare. Why are you living a nightmare? Get busy. Why do you have time for that? To relive May 2nd. And it didn't happen likely on May 2nd, probably May 1st. And there's another strange thing. There's this Facebook, I don't know, this Facebook account here. And I don't know if it's his. Let me share it with you guys. Can I do sideways? No. Okay. Can you see this? Is that his second account? I don't know. But what's interesting is this picture here is from, this profile picture is from November 23, 2024. This profile picture, right? Now, it's possible that he made a lot of posts that I'm not able to see, but the only post that I'm able to see is when he made the profile picture, when he posted this one. And then guess what? on May 1st. He made a post on May 1st. What a coincidence, right? I'm not saying this means anything, but this is May 1. This one. Let me hear what it is. So it's some...
And then in the process,
Okay.
I'm going to share something with you. This is kind of personal, but about 2.5 years ago, I realized there were some things in my life that God wanted to give me and that indeed he had promised me that I had given up on. And I'll tell you exactly what it was. It's not some deep, dark secret. I just,
it's too long.
never really thought
How long is it? 7 minutes?
to share it with you till I read this passage. Pretty much, I had made up my mind that I was some kind of machine that God wanted to use to do ministry. And I thought that my greatest value to God was what he could, to bring something external to myself.
So it may mean nothing. But let's say Thursday, maybe 10 p.m., around that time, I don't know what time, but sometime on the 1st. I cannot tell, unfortunately, what time this particular post was made. Because when he shared it, I cannot tell.
Sometimes you have to go low enough.
Okay, enough now. I just found this very odd. That could it be that this is his second Facebook account, just a backup account? And something happened in the evening hours of May 1st to Jack and Lily, and that he felt a need to watch something ministry related and post it. I don't know. Again, this may mean nothing, but I'm not going to ignore it. I put it on a back burner, but I'm going to keep it in mind that it's a very curious thing that this post was made the day before Jack and Lily were reported missing.
May 2nd.
On the morning of May 2nd, 2 children vanished into the dense woods of Nova Scotia. Lily, age 6, and her 4-year-old brother, Jack.
We're SiteGround, experts at managed WordPress hosting. We make WordPress site management.
Their disappearance triggered a massive search effort, desperate prayers, and a flood of unanswered questions. But beneath the surface of official statements and community vigils, something else has been stirring. Something quieter and more unsettling. What if Daniel Martell, the man who searched the woods, gave interviews and pleaded for calm, wasn't hiding his own guilt, but someone else's? What if the truth about what happened that morning isn't buried in deception, but in misplaced protection? This episode explores a hypothesis no one wants to believe, yet one that refuses to be ignored. It does not accuse, it does not convict, but it asks you to look closer, because until Lily and Jack are found, everyone remains a suspect, including the one who may have stayed silent for love. May 2nd began like any other.
This is a possibility. It is a possibility. But what would that mean? He's protecting her. What could she have done to her children? Remember Cousin Logan mocking Malaya? Meadow, 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 everything is meadow. Meadow, 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 meadow. Mocking her. She expected the mother of 2 missing children to give her only other child easily to Daniel's cousin. That's what she expected. I don't think that Malaya ever had the intention to do that. I can't imagine. And I think it would be a lot to expect if you have two missing children already, that you give your third one away into the care of somebody else. Would you do that? Would you expect somebody to do that? No. She knows what happened to Jack and Lily, and she may be in overprotective mode. And this cousin Logan goes, Maddo, 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 Maddo. She's always Maddo, Maddo, that she basically has been very neglectful to her children, Jack and Lily, ever since Maddo has been born. And it is a very curious thing to recognize that she doesn't have any empathy towards her at all. So that also indicates guilty knowledge, or knowledge of something that happened. Not that she is not guilty, Logan. She has no part in this. But she has knowledge. She knows a lot. Maybe not every detail, but she is being extremely dismissive towards her. And asking her, expecting her to give Maddo to her is like saying, you don't know what to do. You're a terrible mother. Give me that. Give me that. Give me that kid. Get the hell out of here. And I believe that is due to her knowing about something that has taken place that may make Malaya look like a horrible mother. Because otherwise, it would be unexpected for Logan to take such a, such a drastic view. It makes no sense. You would think, okay, she needs her daughter right now. She's going through hell. You're not going through hell, Logan, because, Jack and Lily are not, at least not, they're not your biological relatives. Maddo is your biological relative. So, let's see. I hope this is getting better.
But within a matter of hours, it would become a date etched in dread. At 6:17 a.m., a call was made to the school.
Mm-hmm.
Lily and Jack were homesick.
Yeah.
Their mother was awake, alert enough to excuse them. But if she was up, how did she not hear the back door? The sliding door, the one she later claimed, made no sound at all. Between 8 a.m. and 9:40 a.m., the stories begin to fracture.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Martell says he saw Lily entering and exiting the bedroom multiple times. But Malaya recalls something else entirely, a suffocating quiet. Not the kind that brings peace, but the kind that chills you to the bone.
Right. So she said, next thing we knew, the room was quiet. Lily, and again, I don't believe that was that morning, that was before. Lily kept coming into the room multiple times, Daniel said, and Jack was out. And that language is not a good sign, people. To say Jack was out, not a good indicator. That makes me think something really bad happened to Jack. Lily wanted to get their attention. And so I believe it came from Daniel's experiential memory that Malaya was playing on the phone, ignoring her daughter. And the next thing she knew, something bad had happened. She doesn't want to tell us what. She wants to speed up time, skip time. The room was quiet. Something terrible had happened to these children. Inside the house, not in the yard. It was what? 40 Fahrenheit, 5 Celsius? That's how cold it was out there. They did not walk outside without their coats. No way. They did not play in the yard without coats and some stranger came by and no. Whatever happened in that room. The same room that went quiet.
She says that's when she knew something was wrong, yet no one called 911, not at 8:30, not even at 9:45. It wasn't until around 10 a.m. that police were finally contacted. By then, Daniel says he'd already covered over 20 acres searching on foot. Alone.
What? Wait 1 second. Around 80,000 square meters, 871,200 square feet. So this would be like a square area of around 300 yards each side. That's a large area to cover.
Alone in the woods before any official search had begun. What exactly happened in that missing window? When both parents are home and both children disappear, silence becomes more than eerie. It becomes evidence.
Noble Create จองวันนี้ดาว0 บาทลดสูงสุด 500,000 เริ่ม 2.59
By all accounts, Daniel was a quiet man. He worked part-time, just 1 day a week, at a local lumber mill. Financially unstable, socially withdrawn, and, according to some, quietly controlling. He wasn't the kind of figure you noticed in a crowd. But in the aftermath of Lily and Jack Sullivan's disappearance, he became someone no one could ignore. From the beginning, Daniel appeared cooperative.
He appeared fake crying. That's the first thing I noticed. When I saw the dude push for tears, then look up after hiding his face, believe you me, I was on it. I wanted to hear what he had to say. And he hasn't disappointed since. So before we take our impressions and think, they're both lying, both of them. And they're telling the exact same lies. So if you want to make it your mission to claim Daniel is protecting Malaya, well, why is he doing that? Because he loves her? So this is an idea that a lot of people seem to have in their minds right now. And some others think he is an abuser. And he did something to the children. Now, I'm not going to go there. I believe negligence is what their language indicates. Something horrible had happened. I don't know what it was, but I believe it happened to Jack first. And
while the children's mother, Malahia Brooks Murray, retreated from the public eye, Daniel stepped forward. He gave interviews. He talked to media. He walked the camera crews through the moments before the children vanished. And at first glance, his transparency seemed like innocence. But look closer, and cracks begin to form.
This is clean. Very clean, right? This ATV. What the hell is going on here? So, it was said before, the ATV, it looks really, really clean. Like the cleanest thing on the whole property. So I don't know. Have they cleaned it? Has it been cleaned? When was it last cleaned? Was it used that night?
Innocence. But look closer, and cracks begin to form. Daniel's speech patterns betray a man both rehearsed and conflicted. In nearly every public statement, he echoes Malachiah's phrases, sometimes almost word for
Yep.
word. A linguistic reflection that suggests either deep alignment or prearranged storytelling.
No, even deep alignment would not. Everybody has a different way of expressing the same thing. And a lot has to do with our own experiences in life and how we relate to certain things. So, no.
When he describes Lily, he uses the past tense. She liked girly things. A phrase simple enough, but weighted with implication. Why speak of your stepdaughter in past tense if you still believe she's alive? Even more curious is Daniel's tendency to speak in collective terms. We realized the house was too quiet. Not I realized, not she realized. The use of we obscures accountability, diffuses ownership of events. This shared language might hint at solidarity with Malaya, or at a coordinated effort to protect a version of events.
Yeah.
Daniel often centers himself in the narrative.
Yeah.
His throat was sore. He ran through the woods.
Yes, there was yelling, by the way. There was yelling and screaming at night. So, one more time. In his messages, he said his mother came out. Let's see. My mom was napping and came outside because she heard me yelling. So she came outside of her trailer. Was she napping? Was she already sleeping? Was it evening? Thursday evening, maybe? That morning. For the kids. No, not for the kids. There's some serious distancing here. She did hear them yelling. Malaya was playing on her phone. See? Mom came out and she said Malaya had a look of worry in her eyes that Mom was home. Why wouldn't Mom be home? Does she have another place? Does she have a boyfriend somewhere that she sometimes stays with? I don't know. No, I don't think that's what it is. Mom was home. The look of worry was, I believe, that Mom entered their trailer because she heard yelling and screaming. His throat was sore from that night, not from yelling for Jack and Lily. But they were screaming and yelling at each other. Maybe she was crying, screaming hysterically. Who knows? Something horrible had happened to the kids, at least to Jack. She said no tears. She wasn't scared the kids were gone. No tears. Now, tears, of course, would be expected if you know your children have passed away. Not necessarily when you're still in the process of searching. Sure, everybody's different here, but the kids were gone. There is too much gone. Same with Christopher Proudfoot, and he was just gone. Sebastian was just gone. That's very final. Just a look of worry she got caught for something wrong. What could she have been caught for? So yes, I believe there is some experiential memory in here. And this may be a message to her. Look what you're doing to me here. This was your responsibility. You're the mother. I always took care of the kids more than you. And now you have really failed. And this is your responsibility. This may be the message that he's trying to send. the exact message.
He searched for hours. He makes sure we know how far he went and how hard he tried.
We were searching. We covered everywhere possible. Even in the first day, we did. Even with me running through.
Everywhere possible. Jesus Christ, no, you didn't. There's some. You need to think about the places that haven't been searched for the kids, instead of boasting how much you have done. It doesn't matter what you have done. It's worthless because the result is zero. That's supposed to be your focus. The children. Not telling the whole world how much you have been doing. And when asked, he cannot give a reliable denial. Did you have anything to do with this? I 100% did not. He is telling us he had something to do with it. But he is not alone responsible.
The woods. I was ahead of the helicopters and ahead of the drones and stuff like that.
So he was ahead of the helicopters and ahead of the drones. I guess that morning, right before they arrived. Still, this is very, very... He's ahead of the game. I believe that night he transported the children away. And he was far ahead of where they are looking. He was way, way, way ahead. And screaming.
Screaming as loud as I can.
There was screaming. I believe that. That's how Mom woke up and walked in on them and saw what happened. And Malaya, she probably looked shocked.
Until my throat hurt, running through water that was up to my waist. And as soon as I got back,
I believe he did that also that night. Wherever he took the children, I believe there was a moment that he walked through water that night. And he said, the kid, Lily, came in, the sun was already up. But what was that, 8 a.m.? Of course the sun's been up for 2 hours. No, because he remembered rushing back because he wanted to get home before the sun came up. And the sun was already up. And it's interesting that she called at 6:17 or 6:18 for the kids to call them absent from school. So this could have been when Daniel returned from getting rid of the children, when the sun was already up. He came back, probably left his phone at home, and returned. That is a very strong possibility here. And his clothes were still wet. So, yep, he's talking about something that actually happened, but not during the time that he tries to make us believe.
and as soon as I got back, I wasn't allowed back in the woods until a man dressed in military outfit said I could go back.
Uh-oh. Why are you crying, dude? And no watery eyes, by the way. It's not necessary to have tears running down your face, but at least have some watery eyes. You see, one thing always to look for is discrepancies. For example, when you smile with your eyes, I believe you. If you only smile with your face and your eyes are cold, I don't believe you. If you make the sound of crying and your eyes are not even watery or there's nothing, I don't need to be convinced that Seth Rogers is innocent. And I don't care. Of course, the analysis of Seth Rogers is all clean. He has no knowledge at all about what happened, right? When I saw Seth Rogers on America's Most Wanted, if that was all I saw, I would say I'm skipping analysis, period. I don't need to do it. Unless, of course, something would stand out. So I didn't really bother with it in the beginning at all. I saw him and I figured, you know what? When you can feel something through a person, I'm running with it. I'm not going to let anybody talk me out of it unless I hear deception in the language. And this dude putting on this show. So yes, whoever you are, if you have a conversation with him, ask him, what happened to Jack and Lily? How did they die? What happened in that room? Not only in that house, but in that room. What happened in the room so that the next thing you knew, it was quiet?